Hey, Josh Tigg, Running T Farms. Morning cattle move here. First break of the day. Thought I would talk just a bit. We are grazing Stockpile because have just been upgraded to moderate drought, which is no surprise. We haven't really had any measurable rain for about 6 weeks now. We've had a tenth or two here or there, usually coming in early in the day. The sun pops right back out and it just evaporates it. So we're over here in some Stockpile. Give you just a little history on what we're grazing right here. It was rested all last growing season through the winter, and this is the first graze that we've had on it. Now I did that just simply because we're understocked. I couldn't get to it last year, and I didn't need to graze it this winter. So I'm not saying that's ideal. I'm just saying that's what we've got here. It was in hay production. Prior to that, the former leaser of this farm had been making hay off of this for the last several years, spring and fall cutting. Pretty much a very, very high percentage Kentucky 31 fescue. But I will point out that with these longer rest periods, just about everywhere around here, we got a couple of calves here out creep grazing, but we're starting to see Johnson grass coming up, which we're real proud to see that. You know, there's some remnants of some Johnson grass they grazed last night. You might notice that we got some pokeberry poke stalk. You can see what they look like after they get done. You know, there's some there about 8 feet tall. We just don't worry about them too much. The cattle don't actually consume them, but they just walk them down on the ground. They get to rubbing on them and stuff, and they don't survive. There's a few left standing out there that I would guess by the end of the day they will probably have them rubbed down on the ground. But been some discussion lately on the pros and cons of season-long Stockpile, and you get a lot of varying opinions on it. So I'm just going to give you some of my observation on it and why I think it's important and how it fits in with our grazing in an effort to minimize overgrazing. So first, I'll just take a look at what's here. I would say light to moderate seed head production in this. So we've seen that as our soil gets better, it just doesn't produce as much seed heads. I guess the plants are kind of happy. So that's about probably 30 inches of Kentucky 31 fescue, just all blades there. There is a few seed heads. If you dig on down, you can probably see some of that leftover material from last year. And I would note that it's kind of up off the ground there. There's kind of an area, and if we look down there, you can see just earthworm castings down in there. But when we get the cattle across this, all this older material here, they're going to walk that right down on the ground and really leave a nice cover on the soil and help feed the soil life. So the reason that I like this approach better than a race around the farm and try to keep your farm vegetative is exactly the scenario that we're in right now. Had we been racing around our farm trying to take half, leave half, we could have gotten around our farm possibly. We would have grazed half and left half. And then, like I said, we haven't really had any measurable rain other than I think we got 1/4 of an inch rain on Memorial Day weekend. And prior to that, we hadn't had any for about 2 weeks. And then the whole month of June, we've been extremely hot, extremely dry. It's supposed to be 97, 98 degrees today. Actual temperature, heat index will be well up over 100. You can see in the air there that we've got some be pretty high humidity that we'll be working on. But I would encourage everybody to go out and observe their pasture. If they're doing take half, leave half, whatever you want to call it, I've never been able to get the animals to eat half of every plant that's there. You might be able to take off half of the biomass, but they do that through selective grazing, and they will graze the very best plants, most palatable plants. And of course, I'm coming at this from a Kentucky 31 dominant area. So if I was to turn my cattle in here on a selective graze, they would come and consume that Johnson grass right there to the ground. And this more mature Kentucky 31 fescue, they would avoid at all cost. So if we got, which there's not very much in here, here's some. No, actually that's not. I thought if there was some orchard grass or Dallas grass or anything that they deem more palatable, there's some Bermuda grass coming in here, just common Bermuda. But those cattle would come in here and they would consume their most favorable plants, the most palatable plants, the highest energy plants to the ground, and they would leave the least palatable plants, which in this case would most likely be the Kentucky 31 fescue, to get even more mature and more rank. And then in a case like this year where the rain stopped, those plants that were grazed, the half of those most palatable plants and your warm season grasses that were grazed would likely not be recovered fully when you were forced to come back, when your rotation, because of that quick rotation, you were forced to come back and start grazing it again. So your best, most palatable plants, big old group of birds there flying around, would not be fully recovered. So when you bring those livestock back, what plants do you think they're going to graze in that second graze? And of course, at this point in time, those plants are likely to not be recovered from the first grazing, because those animals will consume their favorite plants all the way to the ground, a severe grazing all the way to the ground, and the plants they don't like, they won't touch if you're allowing them to graze selectively. So they'll come back, they regraze this Johnson grass at an immature stage, or your Dallas grass, or any native warm seasons, Eastern Gamma. And if they didn't kill it that time because you were in severe drought, if you continue that rotation across the farm, because you're going to come back there again, and it's going to be the same scenario again. The other plants that they refused the first time are going to be even more mature and less palatable, and they will only eat them as a last resort, and they're going to go around and select every plant that is the most tender and most palatable, which is the plants that you would like to see increasing in your sward. If you don't give these long rest periods, we would have never seen this Johnson grass to amount to anything in here, and we still don't have much, but we see it increasing across all the acreage on all of our farms, and that's what we want. We need more warm season grasses in our sward to help out with the cattle performance during the summer, and that's what we're finding with these longer rest periods. So I feel like with selective rotational grazing, the take half, leave half approach, you're always betting that you're going to get some rain. The weather forecasters don't do a very good job at that, and I sure don't do a good job at it. So with non-selective grazing, what we're doing is essentially grazing in the here and now. So we're going to graze and keep just the best quality grass that we can in front of our animals, and we're going to stockpile all of the farm that we can't keep up with, because like right now, moderate drought, no rain in 6 weeks, and we've got a sea of forage here. Is it as high quality as it would have been if it was vegetative? No, it's not, but we have a tremendous amount of it. We can back off on the severity of the graze, allow them to be just a bit more selective, and still maintain really good animal performance And the key here is that we're doing that without overgrazing any plants. All the plants in this cell, I'm fixing to set up another 3-day cell here. They're going to finish this one off today. All these plants are fully recovered. There is no overgrazing. So we can come in here. There's probably 300 cow days of forage in here. We're not going to take that much of it because I can't press the cows that hard. But we're still getting a very good harvest efficiency. Manure's looking pretty good. And there's some of the poke stalk. You can see what the cows do to that. They just break them down, rubbing on them and walking on them. There's some more. So we don't, no need to mow behind. They've broken those at the stem there. So anyway, I just wanted to put that out there for people to think about. Selective rotational grazing, take half, leave half, take a third, however you want to label that. There's many names for it. Can work if you're getting good rainfall and everything's kind of moving like you want. But as soon as you hit a hiccup in your growing conditions that's unexpected, you can get into either a feeding situation or an overgrazing situation very quickly, because if you've been racing around your farm trying to keep everything vegetative, it's likely that you don't have any paddocks that are fully rested where all the forage is ready to graze again. You've likely got over rested and overgrazed forage all in the same paddock. And we know that overgrazing is one of the biggest negative things that you can do on your land is overgrazing, because you're killing those plants. So we try to graze non-selectively every time. I want the playing field leveled every time so that we're not favoring any one species over the other. I would point out to some people, it's always interesting. If we take a close look on this side of the fence, you see that there's a good fair amount of horse nettle in there. And if you take a look on this side of the fence, no horse nettle. So those horse nettle are very high. Well, there's one that they actually eat the top out of it, but there's a little bit of manure on the leaf, so obviously they're not going to eat it once they've fouled it. So that good looking manure pats this morning. So non-selective grazing is grazing in the here and now. We're going to not speculate so much on rain to come. We're going to focus on what we've got right here and now, and we're going to graze during the growing season to favor animal condition while grazing non-selectively, meaning keeping the very highest quality forage that we've got in front of them. We actually have some that's just a bit better than this, but I'm going to be taking these cows. I thought I would, as long as I could keep good condition on them, which we are, I'd go ahead and tidy up some of this that's been rested going on a year and a half. So I don't necessarily recommend that, because I know we're shading out the growing points and probably hurting our plant spacing a little bit under here, but it's just the way it worked out. Rather than come in here and mow it, I prefer to do it with the cattle. We can get the good animal impact, we can get the nutrients cycled, we can walk those seeds down into the ground, we can get this leftover stems and plant material that was left there from the last growing season down on the ground nice and tight like it is here, to feed our soil, keep our soil good and covered. So you can see there that there is no bare soil anywhere. Got a nice coverage all the way around of plant material. So hope everybody had a great 4th of July. We're enjoying a little time off kind of from work here, just hanging out on the farm, moving cows. I like to move cows, so little bit of a staycation for us. But as always, you can check us out online at runningtbeef.com. You can like us on Facebook at runningtbeef. If you're watching on YouTube, click that like and subscribe button on your way out. And everyone have a fantastic 4th of July holiday.